Today is safe thanks to the material girls.
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's the middle of the year already, and since I got 2 bullet journals at the start of the year, I can actually make my mid-year spread in time. So let's get into it. I was having a really hard time deciding on what theme I should go for. I'm thinking of a theme change for the half of this year. I was actually having a really hard time deciding on what I associate with the month. So I can't really think of themes that way. So I wanted to make it a little bit more fun for myself. This half of my bullet journal is going to be themed after my favorite childhood cartoons and shows. For this setup, it's going to be themed after the original Powerpuff Girls. It already gave me a pretty clear color palette to work with so I wouldn't get lost. It was also something that my sister and I watched a lot. There's only 2 of us, so we're always missing a buttercup. Anyway, we start with the cover. Since I wanted to have more accurate colors and a larger variety, I used colored pencils for this spread. The main cover is going to look like the opening shot where the narrator goes, "The city of Townsville." So it's a wide shot of the skyline. It's going to be a bunch of buildings, and I don't have enough marker colors to make sure that I have enough color variation. And I don't have the desaturated colors either. Since I usually use highlighters and Crayola Super Tips, I don't have the luxury of color variation. I try to make each building have 2 separate colors, a light and a dark color, since the original skyline also has a very limited color palette of golden colors and yellowish browns. Note that I'm not using any particular colored pencil sets here. This is just a combination of leftovers from 4 different sets from my childhood, and I just use whatever color works best. I'm able to create the colors I want because I can always color with the light hand to make those pastels and the in-between colors. The only problem is using colored pencils takes such a long time. With the colors I collected earlier, it wasn't enough for all the buildings I had to color in, so I take my container of leftover pencils and add more browns into the mix than just yellows and oranges. I sharpen these pencils off camera. Then this building has like a staircasing thing going down, but since the building itself has stripes, I go make those first. Then I take the dark color and fill in the half with the light lines and the lighter color on the half with the darker lines. If you see giant chunks cut out of buildings, those are just where the other buildings would go. When coloring, I usually go for the windows and details first, drawing in what needed to be in front, then color around it. Some of these buildings have different styles of windows, some have stripes that indicate floors. I basically used a photo of the city from the show and look for enough color variety between all the buildings to create something that looks close enough to it. I try to do a thing where the more yellow faces are on the taller buildings and the more orange and brown faces were on the lower buildings. For the label, I put the other half of 2022, just like the usual opening line. The logo is dark pink with a black border, and that's how I color the title. This is gonna be my default way of coloring the title for the other pages unless the page is themed after something else. Then I outline everything with black so I can color it all in. One last thing is missing, so I start coloring the sky with a light blue pencil. I'm gonna speed through this because you can barely even see the color on camera. Of course, for my setup, the next thing I'm gonna make is a year calendar on the other side of the page. I'm basing this off the trails that the Powerpuff Girls leave when they fly. In most photos I've seen, it's Bubbles on the left, Blossom in the middle, and Buttercup on the right. So I'm starting with the left side with blue, a light pink in the middle, and mint on the right. I'm using my pastel green Stabilo here. I think it's mint something to make Buttercup side, since this is the most accurate one in my collection. Then I color all the boxes in. The calendars themselves are a combination of the main and secondary colors of the girls. The secondary colors are used in the day labels of each calendar. We have yellow for Bubbles, orange for Blossom, and black for Buttercup. It's basically their hair colors. Then I use the corresponding color to make the start dates of each month. I do this so I only need to consult the calendar on my laptop once per month, and it gives me guides to see if I missed a number as I go. Then I go through each one and complete the calendar. To create the boundaries, I take a light brown pen and outline just the calendar part of each box. This to create definite divisions for each month. Then I get the same light blue pencil and color in the blue to match the cover. Next is the spread measuring guide. So as usual, I write down the number of boxes for the page. I'm making this in gray since this vintage pen is a lot more forgiving than my black Muji pen. You'll see why later. So as much as possible, especially in the later spreads, I'm going to avoid using my Muji pens. I divide the page into quarters using the light brown pen. I start with sketching the vertical divisions, then color code them the same way I did the year calendar. Blue, pink, and green from left to right. Then I do the same thing for the horizontal divisions. Blue on top, pink in the middle, and green on the bottom. But all of them still correspond to a way that I can divide the page. Just like last year's mid-year spread, after the measure spread comes the wishlist. So here we go again with the colors in the same order. I still use the same brighter Muji pens to keep the theme going. I basically just make 6 boxes in the same colors. Then I make the logo the same way I made the one in the cover. Since this is a general theme spread, I don't change the text color and keep it as a darker pink. Then taking my black marker, I color around it and make the box. I don't think you can see it on camera, but the wet ink stuck to my hand and smudged on the page in certain areas. The next spread is the future log. I really like the Dutch door approach with the one I made for the start of the year, so I'm doing it again. I use a cutter and basically cut out the page from the rest of the notebook, making sure I don't cut the string holding it together. I also cut out a tab with the page to make it easier to flip around. I realized that I made a mistake in the sketching of the other page, so I fixed that after being able to see where the Dutch door would go. Another plus of doing a Dutch door is only thinking of one spread worth of designs, which saves time and creative effort. Speaking of designs, since this is gonna be about being able to plan my time, who better to put in the spread than Miss Bellum? I start by coloring in the shoes and outlining the entire outfit in red. I use it to curve around the hand and neck. I use a combination of red and black to color in the clothes with an extra touch of yellow colored pencil for the accents. When the dress is fully colored, I add details using the thin end of my black marker. I color in the hair with a bright orange marker because that's all I had, but to make it more accurate to the actual hair color, I go over it with a brown pencil. I also have my light brown pen to give the outline for the hair. For the skin tone, I didn't have any of the right color, so I went for the closest that I can do with what pencils I had. I go over it with a peach first that has something close to skin, then add a golden yellow over it, then a warm brown. I really tried to make the legs darker than the hands or neck since I'd assume she'd be wearing stockings. Then I outline the entire thing with black again. I keep the outermost lines the thickest, then keep the thin outlines for details. Then I actually start writing the future log starting with July. I add the dates of the month going down and add the days of the week with a light brown pen. I forgot to add this in my last future log, which made planning harder. Then I add 2 other months on the side. Of course, I'm going to use the same blue, pink, and green color scheme. The next part of the Dutch door has 4 months. It might seem confusing to have 7 months, but I want to have January of next year on the page since my first semester is gonna finish in January, so I need something to track my deadlines. I'm getting my red pen to make the first month of the 4, then go with my regular colors for the rest of the months. Then I add the rest of the days with my light brown pen. I take the borders around the calendar with the same light brown pen. Afterwards, I color the tabs in the same colors I've been using so far. I picked signature colors for each of the girls and I mainly use that. Then I continue the borders. I take the marker and make the headers of each month corresponding to the colors of the dates. The title is gonna be done in the same way as the main logo, color the text in dark pink, then make it an outline and then color it with black. For the background, it's modeled after the mayor's office. It's basically a long box with 2 lines in the middle and a shorter box and a border all the way around the edge. So I make outlines with dark brown so that it gets seen under the wall color. The scale isn't really accurate, but I wanted to complete the wall earlier because where I put the title for the page. Then I get a brown pencil and color around the edges of the calendar. This so I don't accidentally color inside. I take it in sections and start coloring in the page. Since this isn't the greatest set of pencils, I have to go overlap the colors to make it easier for it to be opaque. It's really repetitive, so I'm just gonna go speed through the entire thing. The next set of spreads is a new one for me. It's gonna be about debate stuff. I'm gonna make a tourney log and a list of topics I need to read up more on. So I start with the titles. This set is themed after Buttercup because it's the more fighting related thing that I do. In the same style of title as the previous spreads, I colored the inside text in green. It's the same green I've been using for Buttercup related things. Since the title is on the same general position, I color them both at the same time. Then I go over the text with black to make the full title. These are both gonna be tables, so I make a line separating the headers from the entries. I'm using my green Muji pen for this. It's more accurate to the color used in the show, but it's very, very smudgy. So you can see me trying to cover the smudges with white pens and correction tape. The tourney log is gonna have all the tourneys I've joined until the end of the year. It's gonna have the date, the name, format, awards, and my speaking average. Then for the matter gaps, it's a super simple list of topics with a check mark if I've learned about it. So I'm just gonna list down there every time I think there's a topic that I don't know about and want to research on. I'm gonna let that ink dry first, so I'll work on the other pages. And just like the previous page, this is a themed page. This one is for bubbles, since these are more relatively chill things that I do. The left side is for my other org, and the one on the right is list of things to check out. I don't really have a bunch of series to look out for, so I can use the ones from my other bullet journal. As usual, the coloring of the inside text, but now with blue. Then covering it with a black border. I realized that I need to constantly clean my hands when making these since the markers and pens have a tendency to smudge. The date spread is going to contain the meeting dates of things in my org, so I can pre-sketch them ahead of time. So I take different shades of blue and yellow pens and use that to make boxes where I can sort out things that need to be scheduled. I add more of the blue than I do the yellow since blue is a more dominant color and I actually have more of it. The stuff to check out list looks like the matter gaps list. It's just 2 columns of the thing that I need to add and then a check mark. I go back to the previous page and break up all the lists that I'm making. I take my green and dark gray matte liners, I make a line with green, skip a line, make a line with dark gray, and skip a line. And then I just keep repeating. This should make it easier to see which lines line up with what. Going back to the ACM dates, I add some categories that I know I'm going to need, like meetings, events, general assemblies, and check-ins. For the watch tracker, I'm making it the same way as I have for my other spreads. I take one of my wide tapes and place it on top of the first page, then on the bottom of the other page. I take my vintage pink pen and start making horizontal lines for the tracker. I really need these divisions to make sure I'm adding the correct details. This is themed after the heart ending screen where it's light pink, dark pink, and red, so I'm using pink for the main details and red for the entries. I haven't decided on a color key just yet. Then I also add the vertical lines dividing the page into the usual sections, the title of the show or movie, the type of thing I'm watching, the start date, and the end date. I actually add numbers to show how many things I've watched and writing the legends on top. The thing is, I didn't make a legend for the page on the right, so it actually has one more slot than usual. Then when it's all done, I just erase the pencil since I haven't filled up my other watch tracker just yet. The next set of spreads are my YouTube trackers. So on the left, I have my general video plan, and on the right, I have my study mode plan. This is themed very much after the trails that get left after the Powerpuff Girls fly, so I start with coloring in the titles. You've seen me do this a bunch of times already, so I'll just speed through it. This also includes some headers on the spreads. Since they're all in the same style, I'll go through all of them at the same time. I use my thinner black marker to color in the smaller headers, but my camera cut out the footage of me doing that. The problem I found with these Buke notebooks, or at least that's how I think they're said, is that they have a tendency to split and have gaps between the bundles of paper, so I try to avoid that by adding a pink washi tape down the middle. Now I take the corresponding vintage pen and make boxes around the months. The color of the vintage pens are the same as the headers they already have, then I take the brighter Muji pens and write the dates and other info in the boxes. So the study mode boxes don't look super plain, I do my usual color the top of the box thing. To make the design, I sketch out 3 stripes going across each page. They don't have to be super even, just even enough. Then I take my highlighters, which are different colors from the markers, to color the trails. So I'm using my mild coral, mild blue, and mint stabilo. I try to lighten my pencil marks as much as possible, then go over each line with the corresponding color. Blue on top, then pink, then green. It was easier to work with the mild liners since they had thinner tips than the stabilo where I had to only use the sharper top part to color. If the line meets an edge, I make a straight line as far as it can go, then use the end or bullet nib to color the rest. Then I go over everything with an eraser when I'm done to remove as much of the pencil as possible. Now to the last spread I'm making for this video, my classes taken spread. I have this so I'm able to see all my grades and see which classes I still need to take, so of course it's going to be themed after Blossom, who's the most academic of the 3. So I make the same title on one side, but now with light pink inside text than the usual dark pink. The main colors I'm using are dark pink, red, and orange, which are Blossom's clothes, hair, and bow. I make a box for each color for each semester that I've been in UP. I thought it took long to use my ruler, so I just didn't use one, then colored them in and wrote the academic year and semester on each. I actually haven't taken mid-year classes, which are classes during the break, so I just have 8 boxes in total since I haven't skipped the semester either in my 4 years of going to UP. Then I go through each semester and add the classes I took, my grades for those classes, and my semestral GWA, which stands for General Weighted Average. This helps me keep track of every class I've taken even without Wi-Fi. The next thing I'm making is my course checklist. We were given one with how many classes we'd have to take before we can graduate, so I wanted to keep one in my bullet journal too, so I can just look at it while enlisting for classes. I start with adding in my GEs, which are my general academic subjects, then my core speech subjects, which are my majors every speech club major has to take, then my concentration electives, which are based on my areas of concentration, which for me is interpersonal and instructional communication, which I'm gonna start taking next semester. I also have my list of 3 speech electives, which are classes outside my area of concentration, my non-speech electives, which are majors of other courses that I want to take, a survey literature course, which for me is Shakespeare, 6 units worth of language where I took Japanese, PE, and NSCB, which is basically community service, and PI 100, which is a required class about the Philippine national hero. It took me a long time to write all of these, so I'll speed through as much of it as I can, and here's the mid-year setup. I hope you guys like my theme for the month, so yeah, I'm officially changing the overarching theme into childhood cartoons instead, so I hope you guys stay tuned for those videos. I'll be uploading my July plan with me soon. What do you guys think of the spreads? Any suggestions for monthly themes? Leave them in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this from me, then hit the subscribe button and the bell to know when the new video's out. I try to upload every week, Monday nights at 8. I guess that's all for this video. Bye guys!